The vast emptiness of space held its breath as the Hegemony Empire's invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 500 warships, their obsidian hulls gleaming under distant starlight, moved in perfect formation. At their center, the flagship Eternal Night dwarfed its escorts, its 16-kilometer length casting a shadow across the smaller vessels. Admiral Crix's Zorax stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he observed Earth through the holographic display. His species, the Nexari, had conquered 17 galaxies over 10,000 years. Humanity would be just another footnote in their endless expansion. Primitive, he muttered, his serpentine eyes narrowing at the blue planet. They still haven't developed proper planetary shields. His second-in-command, Commander Vex, smiled coldly. The reports suggest they've barely mastered faster-than-light travel, Admiral. This will be over quickly. But deep within Earth's orbit, hidden behind the dark side of the moon, the experimental vessel Hyperion waited. Captain Aria Blackwood sat in her command chair, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the approaching armada. The Hyperion represented humanity's greatest achievement and their last hope. "They're right on schedule," Lieutenant Raven Donovan announced from her tactical station. The young officer's fingers danced across her console, analyzing the enemy fleet's formation. Counting 500 ships, including what appears to be their command vessel. Aria nodded, her expression calm despite the odds they faced. The Hyperion looked unremarkable. A sleek vessel barely a kilometer long, its silver hull reflecting the distant sunlight. But appearances were deceiving. Within its core hummed humanity's secret weapon, the quantum manifold drive. "Engineering, status report," Aria called out. Chief Engineer James Hawthorne's voice came through clear and confident. "The T&D is stable, Captain. All systems are operating at optimal efficiency. We're ready." For 3 years, they had prepared for this moment. While the Hegemony Empire had conquered world after world, humanity had poured every resource into developing technology that could stand against them. The quantum manifold drive was the result, a system that could manipulate the very fabric of space-time itself. "Open a channel to command," Aria ordered. Admiral Way's hologram appeared before her, his weathered face showing both concern and determination. "The invasion fleet has arrived, sir, requesting permission to execute Operation Thunderbolt." Way nodded gravely. "Permission granted, Captain. Remember, we only get one shot at this. The fate of Earth depends on proving the Hyperion's capabilities. Show them humanity won't bow so easily." As the transmission ended, Aria stood and addressed her crew. "Everything we've trained for comes down to this moment. The Empire thinks they're facing a primitive species ready for conquest. Let's show them how wrong they are." The Hyperion's engines hummed to life, its revolutionary drive system creating ripples in the quantum fabric of space. On the bridge of the Eternal Night, Admiral Zorax's sensors suddenly blared warnings. Before he could react, a silver vessel materialized in the heart of his formation. "Impossible," Vex breathed. "No ship could have breached our detection grid." Aria's voice echoed across all Imperial frequencies. "This is Captain Aria Blackwood of the Earth vessel Hyperion. Your empire has consumed enough worlds. Today that ends." Zorax laughed, the sound echoing across his bridge. "One ship. This is what Earth sends to challenge the might of the Hegemony. Destroy them." Multiple Imperial vessels opened fire, their energy weapons creating a web of destruction where the Hyperion had been. But the human ship had already vanished, reappearing behind an Imperial cruiser. A single pulse from the Hyperion's quantum-enhanced weapons sheared through the larger vessel's shields like they didn't exist. How? Zorax demanded as the cruiser exploded. Their weapons shouldn't be capable of penetrating our defenses. The Hyperion danced through space, its movements defying conventional physics. Each time the Imperial fleet adjusted their formation, the Earth ship would appear where they least expected, striking with surgical precision before vanishing again. "The TRND is performing perfectly," Hawthorne reported, his voice excited. "We're rewriting the rules of space combat with every maneuver." 3 more Imperial ships fell in quick succession, their mighty shields useless against weapons that phased through space itself. Arya watched the tactical display with intense focus, coordinating each strike with practiced precision. This wasn't just about survival, it was about sending a message to an empire that had grown too confident in its supremacy. Zorax's rage built as he watched his perfect formation crumble against this impossible opponent. "Concentrate all fire. I want that ship reduced to atoms." But the Hyperion proved impossible to pin down. Its quantum drive didn't just allow for faster-than-light travel, it gave the ship the ability to exist in multiple probabilistic states simultaneously. Traditional targeting systems simply couldn't track a vessel that could manipulate its own position in spacetime. As the battle continued, word began spreading through the Imperial fleet. For the first time in centuries, the hegemony's mighty armada was being outmaneuvered by a single vessel from a primitive world. Fear, an emotion long forgotten by the Empire's forces, began to take root. The first phase of Operation Thunderbolt was complete. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the age of Imperial dominance was coming to an end. But this was just the beginning. The real battle for Earth's freedom was about to unfold. The bridge of the Eternal Night trembled as Admiral Zorax slammed his fist against his command console. The holographic displays surrounding him showed the aftermath of the Hyperion's initial assault. 7 Imperial warships reduced to drifting debris, their quantum-shattered hulls spreading across the void like metallic confetti. "Deploy the Nexari combat drones," he commanded, his serpentine eyes tracking the energy signature of the human vessel. "Pattern Omega-6. Let's see how their precious technology handles being overwhelmed." Thousands of autonomous fighters erupted from the Imperial fleet's hangars, their neural networks linked in perfect synchronization. Each drone carried enough firepower to level a small city, and their collective intelligence made them nearly impossible to outmaneuver. Aboard the Hyperion, Lieutenant Donovan's tactical display lit up like a festival of lights. "Captain, detecting multiple drone launches. They're using a swarming algorithm I've never seen before." Arya Blackwood remained calm, her fingers drumming thoughtfully on her armrest. "Chief Hawthorne, what's the status of the quantum field manipulators?" "Ready for Phase 2 testing, Captain," the engineer replied, excitement evident in his voice. "Though I should mention we've never attempted this scale of probability manipulation before." "No time like the present," Arya said, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Begin quantum field expansion. Lieutenant Donovan, prepare the temporal mines." The Hyperion's revolutionary drive hummed at a new frequency as Hawthorne initiated the sequence. Around the ship, space itself began to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. The Imperial drones approached at tremendous speed, their weapons charging, but something strange began to happen. "Fascinating," Hawthorne muttered, watching his readings. "The quantum field is actually creating multiple probability spaces. Each drone is literally fighting itself across different timelines." The effect was spectacular. As the drones entered the expanded quantum field, they began to split into multiple versions of themselves, each existing in a slightly different probability state. Unable to determine which version was real, their targeting systems went haywire. Dozens of drones began firing at their own quantum echoes, creating a spectacular light show of self-destruction. On the eternal night, Commander Vex stared at his displays in horror. "Admiral, we're losing drone cohesion. Their targeting matrices are completely compromised." Zorax leaned forward, his scaled features twisted in a mixture of rage and fascination. "What kind of technology are we dealing with? No species we've encountered has ever demonstrated this level of quantum manipulation." The Hyperion wasn't finished. As the surviving drones struggled to navigate the probability field, Aria gave the order: "Deploy temporal mines." Small, innocuous devices materialized from the Hyperion's quantum wake. As the drones triggered them, localized temporal distortions erupted across the battlefield. Some drones found themselves moving in slow motion, while others accelerated until they tore themselves apart. The carefully coordinated swarm dissolved into chaos. Imperial drone effectiveness reduced to 12%. Donovan reported with satisfaction. "Their remaining units are retreating to the carrier ships." But Admiral Zorax wasn't finished. "Enough games," he snarled. "Bring the psychic contingent online." Deep within the eternal night, a chamber of Nexaraptions awakened. The Empire's most closely guarded weapon, warriors capable of reaching across space to touch the minds of their enemies. As they joined their consciousness, a wave of psychic energy swept toward the Hyperion. Aria felt it first, a pressure building behind her eyes, alien thoughts trying to claw their way into her mind. Around the bridge, her crew began to show signs of distress. "There, in my head," Donovan gasped, her hands shaking above her console. But once again, the quantum manifold drive proved its worth. The same field that could manipulate probability in space had an unexpected side effect. It created a quantum uncertainty state around the crew's consciousness, making their minds as difficult to pin down as their ship. "Quantum consciousness shielding holding," Hawthorne reported, his voice strained but triumphant. "Their psychic attack can't resolve our mental state any more than their weapons can lock onto our physical position." Zorax watched in disbelief as his pshins recoiled, their powers rendered useless by technology they couldn't comprehend. The human vessel had countered every advantage the Empire had developed over millennia of conquest. "You fought well." Aria's voice came through on all frequencies again. "But this is just a demonstration of what humanity can do. We're offering you one chance to retreat. The next phase of our defense won't be so gentle." The Admiral's pride warred with his tactical sense. In just 2 encounters, this single human ship had neutralized Imperial technology that had conquered entire galaxies. But retreating now would mean admitting defeat, something the Empire had never done. "Prepare the quantum torpedoes," he ordered, his voice cold. "If we can't target them precisely, we'll saturate their entire probability field with enough firepower to destroy every possible version of their ship." As the Imperial fleet began to reconfigure for this desperate assault, Aria nodded to her crew. The real battle was about to begin, and humanity's greatest tests still lay ahead. The dance of the void was about to become a symphony of destruction. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds under Imperial control, beings of all species gathered around communication terminals, watching grainy footage of a single human vessel defying the mighty hegemony fleet. Hope, long suppressed under generations of Imperial rule, began to stir. The Hyperion hung in space, its silver hull now bearing scorch marks from near misses with Imperial quantum torpedoes. Inside, Captain Area Blackwood studied tactical readouts, showing encrypted transmissions flooding between Imperial-controlled worlds. "They're watching," Lieutenant Donovan reported, intercepting fragments of alien communications. "Every species the Empire has subjugated is tracking this battle. We're becoming a symbol. Then let's give them something worth believing in," Arya responded, her eyes fixed on the Imperial fleet's new formation. Chief Hawthorne, status of the quantum signature replication system. The engineer's voice came back confident despite his exhaustion. "Ready for deployment, Captain. Though I should warn you, creating this many quantum duplicates will put unprecedented strain on the drive." Admiral Zorax's fleet had arranged itself in a massive sphere, preparing to unleash a barrage of quantum torpedoes that would theoretically destroy every possible quantum state the Hyperion could occupy. It was a desperate strategy, one that would consume enough energy to power a small sun. "They're charging weapons," Donovan announced. "Energy readings are off the charts." Arya stood from her command chair, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Initialize the replication sequence. Let's show them what humanity's quantum technology can really do." The quantum manifold drive's hum changed pitch, rising to a sound that seemed to vibrate through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Around the Hyperion, space began to fracture and multiply. What started as one ship became 2, then 4, then 16, each version equally real, existing in its own quantum probability state. On the bridge of the eternal night, Commander Vex's scales had turned pale. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple versions of the human vessel. Our sensors indicate they're all genuine." Zorax stared at the impossible sight before him. Where once there had been a single troublesome ship, now there was a fleet of them, each one as dangerous as the original. Impossible. No species has ever achieved stable quantum duplication. The Hyperion fleet moved in perfect synchronization, each ship piloted by quantum-linked versions of the same crew, experiencing slightly different versions of the same reality. As the Imperial fleet unleashed its devastating torpedo barrage, the human ships executed a maneuver that defied conventional physics. Instead of evading, they moved toward each other, their quantum fields merging and overlapping. The torpedoes struck the combined field and passed through empty space. The Hyperion fleet had shifted between quantum states faster than the weapons could detonate. "Return fire," Arya commanded, her order echoing across quantum states. Each version of the Hyperion fired simultaneously, their weapons amplified by quantum resonance. The combined assault struck the Imperial fleet's formation like a cosmic hammer, shattering shields and rupturing hulls. Across the galaxy, the footage of multiple human ships appearing from quantum probability itself became a beacon of resistance. On the desert world of Kerax, the reptilian saurians began sabotaging Imperial factories. In the crystal cities of Luminara, the ethereal photons started encrypting their networks against Imperial control. "Admiral," Vex's voice shook, "we're receiving reports of uprisings on 12 different worlds. The footage of this battle, it's inspiring rebellion." Zorax's composure finally cracked. His carefully maintained image of Imperial invincibility was crumbling before a technology that shouldn't exist. "Launch the planet killers," he snarled. "If we can't defeat their ship, we'll destroy their world." From the depths of the Imperial fleet, massive weapons platforms emerged, each carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. It was the Empire's ultimate deterrent, one they had used to ensure compliance from countless civilizations. But as the planet killers moved into position, the quantum-linked versions of the Hyperion began a new maneuver. They moved in a complex pattern, their fields interacting in ways that bent the fabric of space itself. A massive quantum singularity began to form in the heart of the Imperial fleet. The quantum resonance is stable, Hawthorne reported across all versions of the bridge. We can hold this for 3 minutes before the drive overloads. Aria's voice carried the weight of humanity's defiance as she broadcast one final time to the Imperial fleet. Your empire was built on the assumption that advanced technology equals the right to rule. We're proving that assumption wrong. Stand down, or learn what happens when you push humanity too far. The quantum singularity grew, its gravitational pull beginning to tear apart the nearest Imperial ships. Zorax faced a choice he had never encountered in centuries of conquest: retreat, or risk losing his entire fleet to an enemy he couldn't understand. As the Empire's fleet began to withdraw, the message was clear. Humanity hadn't just defended itself, it had shattered the myth of Imperial invincibility. Across the galaxy, the echoes of revolution grew louder, and the age of the hegemony's unchallenged rule was coming to an end. Admiral Zorax's retreat had been a deception. As the Hyperion's crew celebrated their apparent victory, the Imperial flagship, Eternal Night, executed an emergency quantum jump, reappearing with a new fleet, one specifically engineered to counter Earth's quantum technology. Multiple signals detected. Lieutenant Donovan's voice cut through the celebration. They're different. These ships are equipped with quantum dampening fields. The new Imperial vessels, their hulls crackling with anti-quantum energy, formed a perfect cage around the Hyperion. Each ship projected a field designed to force quantum probability into a single state, threatening to strip the Earth vessel of its greatest advantage. Quantum field destabilizing, Hawthorne reported, his hands flying over the controls. They've found a way to collapse our probability states. We can't maintain quantum duplication. Aria Blackwood stood calmly as her ship's quantum advantages began to fade. They'd adapted, just as we knew they would. Initiate Protocol Omega. Let's show them our contingency plan. The Hyperion's core began to pulse with a new kind of energy, one that didn't rely on quantum mechanics at all. Instead, it tapped into something even more fundamental: the underlying source code of the universe itself. The final battle for Earth's freedom unfolded across multiple dimensions of space-time. The Hyperion, now powered by its revolutionary reality engine, didn't just manipulate quantum states, it rewrote the local laws of physics themselves. Imperial ships found their weapons refusing to fire, their engines operating in reverse, and their shields becoming conductors rather than barriers. The Hyperion moved through their formation like a ghost through walls, each strike rewriting the very reality around their vessels. Admiral Zorax, witnessing his ultimate weapon rendered useless, finally understood. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology, they had evolved beyond the Empire's capacity to comprehend their innovations. You based your empire on the assumption that might makes right. Aria's voice echoed through every Imperial command center across the galaxy. We're showing you something different: the power of innovation, adaptation, and the indomitable human spirit. The Eternal Night's bridge erupted in chaos as systems failed across the ship. Zorax, his mighty empire crumbling around him, made the first surrender in Imperial history. The Hyperion had achieved the impossible. A single human ship had broken the back of a galactic empire. As the Imperial fleet retreated from Earth for the final time, Aria Blackwood stood on her bridge, watching the stars. Humanity had not just survived, they had changed the galaxy forever. The age of Imperial dominance was over, replaced by something new, an era where innovation and courage meant more than brute force and ancient power. The revolution that started with one ship spread across the stars, as subjugated species rose up against their oppressors. The hegemony empire, faced with technology they couldn't counter and rebellions they couldn't suppress, began to fragment. And at the center of it all, the Hyperion remained a symbol, proof that even the mightiest empire could fall to a single ship, crewed by beings who dared to dream of freedom. The end.